got some coffee. Do you have 10 minutes to sit down and answer some members' questions?
Oh gosh, this morning I'll do anything for coffee. Come on in.
All right. Well, one of our members submitted this question, and they want to know, what is the difference between the CCPA and the CPRA in California?
Huh, that's a really good question. Well, let's start with the CCPA. The CCPA is the California Consumers Privacy Act. It's a piece of legislature that went through the Congress and the Senate, or the House of Representatives in California, and it came through very quickly because what was happening back then is that a consumer advocacy or consumer rights advocacy was putting up ballot initiatives through. The thing you have to understand about ballot initiatives is that once they're through, you cannot change them except by another ballot initiative. So you cannot amend them or change them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So when that law comes through, you're stuck. And now there becomes a lot of court cases to see whether or not it's constitutional, either by the California state constitution or the U.S. Constitution. So people try to do everything they can to keep ballot initiatives from going through in California. Because once it's in, it's in.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So what happened was there was a ballot initiative that was actually, and a ballot initiative means all the residents of California get to vote on it. And it can be promoted by non-California entities or persons. And a ton of money went into this one. And the interesting thing is where the money is. But we won't put on our tin hats today, okay?
No, we'll move on.
So anyway, there's a ballot initiative, and it was going to severely restrict the internet community. Severely restricted. That was brought to the attention of the legislatures in California, and they decided to dust off a really bad, really old law called the California Consumer Privacy Act. And they passed it. They did it in 3 days. And that's the fastest legislation's ever gone through.
Wow.
So they passed it in 3 days. They threw it onto the governor's desk. He signed it. And then people started reading it and realized this is even worse than what we thought. Now the legislatures came back and said, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're going to amend it. We'll make it all nice and pretty through amendments. So the internet marketing industry in California didn't really oppose it. They did start working with the legislature to amend it, and in the view of that advocacy, the rights group that had the initial ballot initiative, they realized they were weakening it. And one of the greatest things that came through is they got an amendment through that weakened it that said there was no private right of action. That means no Dan Balsams, no class actions. The only time that it would come into play as far as a citizen or a resident of California being able to sue you is if you had a data breach. It would be an additional damage. Make sense?
Yeah.
So when it came to the point where they had done 2 or 3 changes to it in the legislature, the same people who did the original ballot initiative said, oh no, we see what you're doing. You're crossing us. You said you'd amend it to make consumer rights stronger, and instead you're making these, horrible internet people's rights stronger. So they put another ballot initiative, and that was 2 years after the first one. This ballot initiative was called the California Privacy Rights Act, and it passed. Now, there's no amending or changing that.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal. What it does is the ballot initiative amends the CCPA. So it's still the CCPA. That's the law you have to abide by.
So when they talk about CCPA, that's it. It's just don't forget the CPRA.
Well, don't forget it.
Well, the terminology, I mean.
Right. But the terms, when people say you have to be CCPA compliant, what they're saying is you have to be compliant with the amendments that came through the California Privacy Rights Act.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's the act that created the agency, and that's why people should be very, very compliant with that law.
Why? What's wrong with the agency, or what does that mean?
The California Privacy Rights Act created a bureaucratic monopoly. Okay, I can't say it anymore. It's the FTC on steroids.
Really?
Yeah. They put up a bureau that has, I believe, 6 members on it. They're non-elected, they're appointed, so you can only imagine. the influence that the people who put up the ballot initiative had for that agency. And basically what they do is they make the rules and regulations under the law. And they can investigate it and they can assess fines. Now, all of that's fine and well until you realize that they're very poorly funded in California. So the only money that they will be receiving to keep themselves going and to assess a bureaucratic power, if you will, in California is through fines. So beginning in July
But this year?
of this year, they will start implementing investigations, if they aren't already, and you'll see huge fines come out of California. And then remember, it's only based on California data. If you don't have California data, you don't have to comply with it at all. But if you do, you better comply, because the threshold of who's a, quote, covered business, whatever that means, is only 100,000. If you have one or two websites, you hit that. You're collecting that much data on California consumers. So unless you're actively blocking them, you're going to be a, quote, covered business, and you must comply with the rules and regulations of the CCPA. If you're an employer, wherever you're located, if you have California employees, you're covered there too. So make sure that they have their program set up for the employees, for sure. But that's the difference between the CCPA. Yeah, I went way squirrel on that one. But that's the difference between the CCPA and the CPRA.
Very well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. If you have any questions, we ask that you email them to info@clickalaw.com and we will record a 10-minute talk for you. And don't worry, we will leave your name and company out of the questions. Have a good day.